Senator Goodall.
Call the question.
Question has been called. Do I hear any objections?
Consent.
Hearing none, motion passes. Senator Suk. Motion to excuse Senator Ganesh until 8 p.m. Senator Goodall,
Second.
seconded by Senator Goodall. Do I hear all the questions, Senator Lonkarani? The question has been called by Senator Lonkarani. Do I hear any objections?
Consent.
Hearing none, motion passes. Senator, Al-Khatib,
Motion. I rescind my motion.
Senator, Goodall,
Motion to excuse Senator Siddiqui after 8 p.m.
Senator Lonkarani,
Second.
Senator Amin.
Call the question.
Are there objections to call the question? Hearing none, motion passes. We're now in A3, acceptance of proxies. Senator Lonkarani,
Motion to accept, Caleb Farrow for Senators is the year for 8:30 p.m. The box.
Senator Goodall.
Second.
Senator Zong.
I'm sorry, Chair, but it's Mr. Claro currently a candidate for Senate. As the standing policy 10 of the ASUSSB states that any candidate who declares their candidacy cannot be a proxy for a senator. Yes.
Senator Butler.
Motion to suspend standing policy 10 from standing policy and procedures for the duration of the meeting.
Okay, clarifications before everyone votes on this. I'm just gonna try my best to explain this in a nonpartisan manner. So in the standing policy, candidates who are running for the election are not allowed to proxy for individuals who are currently senators before week 4. However, last year, we suspended the standing policy, I think almost every single time during spring quarter. So you can either do that again if you think it's helpful to have people proxy in the meetings or not. Because it's a standing policy and not a bylaws, it can be suspended for a duration of time. So it's up to all of you. That's all. Senator Goodall,
Second.
been seconded by Senator Goodall. Do I hear a call to question? Senator Chaudhry? Question has been called by Senator Chaudhry.
Objection,
Senator objection by Senator Zoff.
can you speak, please? Objection to the question.
Oh, do you rescind your call to question? You rescind?
Thank you, Chair. I think Senator Butler is coming from the best of intentions. It's vital for new senators to know the norms and the way Senate works, so they can start to deliver results for students who elect us. With that said, I do believe from the point of view of election fairness, the reason standing policy 10 was put in place is to prevent people with a connection in the Senate having an undue advantage in the election since they are already a candidate. After election, I've strongly support suspending it so people can get out to speak. But before the election is over, I do not believe suspending the policy will be the right move. I yield.
I was kind of like in between on this because I know it sounds a little hypocritical because I was someone who was a candidate last year and I proxied. But I do understand Ming-Jin's point. I don't think it's necessarily fair to offer the opportunity to certain individuals while others might not get it. So I'll be voting no. I think it'd be easier for us to just do a hand vote on this to kind of settle it quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should, make the debate really brief and just go into a vote on this. I seconded it for a reason. I think it's a great idea. It's a standing policy and not a bylaw for a specific reason, so that each Senate has the discretion to do away with it or not. And I think the issue of establishing a Senate for next year that has as much experience as possible is paramount here. And I don't think it brings about the concern for unfairness that some people will have the opportunity and not to the scale that it will affect the election in any sense. But I do think that it will allow people the experience to step up and be leaders and be extremely engaged when next term starts in a way that is tangible. So I'll be voting yes on this, and I hope you do too.
Senator Iden?
Chair, since you have discretion for how we handle the vote, if I call the question, would you be open to doing a hand vote?
Sure.
Call the question.
Senator Goodall? Okay, does anyone object to the call to question? Okay, if there are no objections, we are now going into a hand vote. So you have three options, yes, no, or abstain. I'm gonna call out each one. Please raise your hand as to which one you're voting for. Starting out with those, yes, in favor of the motion. 14, okay, and no's?
Dan, did you get online?
Oh,
Oh, right.
that's
Let
the
me-
point.
Oh.
Where is the Zoom?
Let me ask Colin.
Yeah, you could.
There's 3 yes votes on Zoom.
Okay,
So 17.
17 yes, and then no's?
4 yes votes.
18.
Okay, 18 yes. 2, I'm seeing 2 no's. Are there any no's on Zoom? And abstentions? Any abstentions? Okay, vote is 18 yes, 2 no, the motion passes. Okay, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and move us directly into public forum. I'm not sure if Sean or if anyone else, if you guys have a list for me, or if that's been created. Well, no, there's no list. Okay, can you work on, work on creating a list while you do that, I'm just going to your business.
Okay. Right, guys, if you want to speak at the public forum, please come to me. I have a list of paper.
Okay, in the meantime, while he does the public forum signups, we're gonna move into new business really quickly. Just to like kind of get us going along. So I'll start off with the Michael Ma Service to Economic Students Act. Senator Lala, you have the floor, if you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a project that is both deeply personally important to me, and I think will be important to the association in its future as well. In the middle of last month, 2 dear friends of mine, as well as to the 9 or so students who signed on as student sponsors, Michael Ma and Mason Ryan, tragically passed away in a car crash in nearby Camarillo. They were both beloved and really bright members of the communities that they were part of during their time here. They lit up everyone's day when they had a chance to, which was quite often. And Mike in particular was honestly the brightest economic student that I've ever known. And he brought to me the idea first during our freshman year from 2022-23 that UCSB is one of the very few major campuses in the United States that does not have access to what's called the Bloomberg Terminals. It's the Bloomberg Terminal on Campus program, which allows economic students, but anyone who is interested, access to really sophisticated trading data. It could be commodities on the other side of the world, things that students will need to build a strong career path for themselves. And both Mike and Mason really sought these kinds of opportunities themselves and always recognized and spoke to me, especially when I came to my service in the Senate, that these kinds of opportunities were often not available to students who sought them. So in their honor, as well as for every student who will hopefully make use of this if and when we get this project accomplished, I really hope that we vote for this today. To explain a little bit more of the detail and why I worded their 4 clauses in the way I did, we're directing the acting executive director as well as the associate director of technology, who is personified in the same official, Sean Lieberman, for this year, to begin this work in collaboration with us in Senate, other elected leaders, and hopefully the economics department and other relevant stakeholders on campus. But really, we want this to be an ongoing effort where I'm very clear-eyed that this is not going to be resolved by the end of our terms. And I hope next year's executives and Senate leaders take this up just as vigorously, because I think it could be a really long-lasting legacy in a way we tangibly add on to students' opportunities here. I think that covers it all. I'm willing to take any questions.
Yeah, really just shitty tragedy that happened, and it's super unfortunate, but I think this could be a really cool thing. I am hoping to work with Sean on this. We'll see how it goes. I was able to reach out to actually my first professor I ever had here in the economics department to see if they're interested. I'm planning to reach out to the stats and data science as well, because at least as an economics major myself, a lot of the times it's not super applicable. I know there's a lot of other people in different majors who would be able to utilize a service such as this. Because a lot of times it's just like theory, and not a lot of the real world application. But it'd be exciting. And so this is kind of like, I guess, our first step. And then moving forward, I appreciate everyone's support. So I appreciate it. And hopefully in terms of like, if funding comes up, we're seeing in my discussion with the economics departments and data science, we're going to see if they can chip in at all. Because I hope that we don't have to bear the brunt of the cost.
Senator Wood Sandy.
Amazing for doing this. This is like. I think it's a great way to honor the memory of these students that. This is very impressive. I don't really know if it's like an app or like, what is it necessarily?
Senator Lowell.
It's not it's not like a Robinhood or
Okay,
anything like
yeah.
that. It's a platform which takes, I mean, business finance institutions will use and pay to the tune of tens of thousands to use every year. But if it's done at the campus level, and they obviously have a program specifically for this to facilitate it, the campus pays or whoever enables it, and then students can use it for those purposes. So it's a lot more sophisticated one than a regular app would be. But secondly, it has a little bit more of an access barrier and this huge cost to get in the first place.
Senator Iden.
Yeah, it's a really good market analysis tool. And we don't really get a lot of those opportunities within the economics department, if at all. All of it's like independent work on how you might be motivated. So it'd be like, it's like seriously an amazing tool to be able to utilize.
Senator Zoll.
I move to vote on the micromath service to economic students as by hand vote.
Senator Cadal.
Second,
There's been a second on the motion. Senator Lonkarani.
Question?
Question has been called. Do I hear any objections?
And
Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, so we are now going into a hand vote on the Michael Ma Service to Economic Student Act. Hands up for yes. How many on Zoom?
I'm not seeing the options.
We have 3 yes votes on Zoom.
Okay. No votes? Zoom? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes with 19 votes in favor. I just want to say, I didn't know Michael personally, but I knew some people close to Michael. My condolences are with you and for anyone else out there who's grieving. It's a great tragedy anytime any student at UCSB passes away. I mean, that's horrible to think about at this age, like someone that we see every single day could just not be there anymore. So my prayers and thoughts are with everyone who's reeling from the loss. Yeah, and there were 0 abstentions. Okay, that being said, we're now gonna move into public forum. So first up is gonna be Kamaya Jackson, who's here to speak on their board position. Hi, you have 2.5 minutes to speak with 2 minutes for Q&A. Please say your name, pronouns, and enunciate, but refrain from yelling. Speculation of a sender's intentions and abilities is prohibited and will result in strikes. 3 strikes and you will be removed from the ability to speak on the floor.
Wait, say that last part one time.
Speculation of a sender's intentions and abilities is prohibited and will result in strikes. 3 strikes and you will be removed from your ability to speak on the floor. I'm just reading off the. You have 2.5 minutes to speak and then 2 minutes for Q&A, but we can motion to extend your time. If you want to request more time, you can request that.
For the speculation part, how does that work? You guys stop me when you guys say you can't say that?
Senator Zoll, if you'd like to.
yes, so if a member of the Senate believes there has been a violation to the Robert's Rules of Order that prohibits speculation of intentions, they may raise a point of order, in which case the chairman will rule on the point of order. If the point of order was suspended, then the speech will be cut out. If not, speech will continue.
So you guys are saying you cut off my speech if I say speculation. What do you guys consider speculation?
Speculation of intentions only. So you can say, I believe something is blah, 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 but under the current rules, we cannot say, I believe somebody did something because of their, out of what reason.
Isn't that, what's it called? You know, your, I don't know, so I can't say certain, can you repeat that one more time? Sorry, please.
So as it's written right now, speculation of a senator's intention and abilities is prohibited. That's how it's
Only if
written.
I name that that senator's name, correct? Or all the same?
If you name their name or the title of their position, it would still count. You can say whatever you want to
Three
say.
strikes?
You can say whatever you want to say if you preface it with saying, I believe.
Okay, I'm gonna start off, okay, I'll wait till.
Yeah, I just want to read off like all of the speaking agreements and then you can go. It's just one paragraph. So the last part is just like, yeah, 3 strikes and you will be removed from the ability to speak on the floor. Please note this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue, whether it is on the agenda or not. Please include a content warning if it will be graphic. You may only come up once and you may choose not to answer questions. You may begin.
I'm gonna start off saying I believe in all of this. So to associate students, Senate and
Oh,
UCSB.
sorry, could you give your name?
I'm sorry,
Pronouns first.
Kamaya Jackson, she, her pronouns. Okay. I'm gonna start off again saying that I believe for this whole thing. To the associate students, Senate and UCSB community, I stand before you today to express my deep discontent regarding the ongoing misuse of power within the governing body. Over this past winter quarter, I have faced deliberate obstruction and exclusion from my rightful position as core co-chair. My appointment was indefinitely tabled in a closed session, later reinstated by President Broadway, only to be reversed once again, this time via email. The lack of transparency and the blatant disregard for due process raises serious questions about the integrity of this Senate and its commitment to fairness. This reversal, which reportedly took place during week 10, despite no meeting policy, suggests a deliberate attempt to silence and isolate me. These actions are not just procedural missteps, they are targeted efforts to prevent a Black woman from holding a leadership position within NAICS. I refuse to allow these exclusionary tactics to go unchallenged. I call on the Senate and IVB Pinto to publicly explain why my appointment has been repeatedly blocked, why decisions are being made behind closed doors, and why equity in student government is being treated as an afterthought rather than a priority. I formally request an apology from the Senate and IVB Pinto for the exclusionary tactics used against me, immediate reinstatement of my appointment to score co-chair, a commitment to transparent governments, ensuring no future appointments are blocked without due process. If this matter is not addressed properly, I will exercise my right to speak openly about these injustices to a broader student body and community. I will not be silenced. It is time for AS to decide whether it stands for student representation or for maintaining unchecked power at the expense of marginalized voices. Thank you. I'm open to questions.
If anyone has any questions, you may go. Okay, there are no questions. Thank you so much for speaking. Our next person up is going to be Johnny McCowell. Sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong, for CalPERG. Hi, you have 2.5 minutes to speak with 2 minutes for Q&A. Please state your name, pronouns, and enunciate, but refrain from yelling. Speculation of a senator's intentions and abilities is prohibited and will result in strikes. 3 strikes and you will be removed from the ability to speak on the floor. Please note this meeting is being recorded. You may speak on any issue, whether it is on the agenda or not. Please include a content warning if it will be graphic. You may only come up once, and you may choose not to answer questions. You may begin.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, my name is Johnny McConville, CalPERG. I'm just gonna be sharing you all some announcements from CalPERG this week. Obviously it's week 1, so we just got started. We're doing our recruitment drive. I don't know if you guys have seen our class announcements. Have any of you guys seen that? Yeah, well, we've been doing class announcements for recruitment. We've also been tabling, really big because we recruit every quarter. And that's a setup for a bunch of our campaigns this quarter. That's because we do have a couple big campaigns. We're continuing our Stop Sable campaign, which we ran last quarter. It's really big. We had a lot of successes last quarter. We were able to swing the Board of Supervisors vote to vote against Sable restarting the pipeline off our coast. We were also able to create enough attention that the California, Environmental Protection Agency Secretary, Wade Profit, called a town hall meeting right here in Santa Barbara with all the California environmental agencies present, which was really awesome. We showed a big that. Yeah, but unfortunately, Sable isn't stopping with that. So we are going to be doing a lot more with that this quarter. In fact, next week there is a coastal commission meeting, which is going to be really big, especially because right now the Trump administration and the Newsom administration are targeting the coastal commission in California, specifically for issues like this. Yeah, that's why that campaign is really important this quarter. Also, some other big news is our polluters pay bill, which is targeted at making oil polluters pay into a tax dividend. Just got introduced in the California Assembly recently. Yeah, we also have a ton of other campaigns that we're signing up for this quarter.
Will you be taking questions?
Yeah.
Senator Bernarson?
Hey, yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah, that's obviously great to hear that. You guys have been doing great, and I saw that. How you voted, like tie, right? It's a 2v2 vote. I think a lot of people are wondering what that means going forward, including myself. Do you have any insight?
Yeah, it's a little convoluted. Even the county kind of doesn't know what that means, which kind of sucks. But essentially, the original vote was made by the county planning commission to approve the permits transferring from Exxon to Sable. And the county planning commission voted to transfer them, which was unfortunate. So it was appealed to the board of supervisors. And because it was essentially like a no vote, like nothing happens. Yeah, we're arguing that means the county commission like vote is null and void. It doesn't mean anything because essentially there's no vote to it. But obviously Sable's saying that and they're gonna sue the county. So that's kind of what happened with that.
Senator Bernarson?
So the way this moves forward is just in the court system, it's not public.
So there is still a lot of public things to do. As that's like just one aspect of it. And that's gonna go, there's some legal things. There are other angles to this. One of the things we're really hoping on for this quarter is that the California's environmental agencies like the Coastal Commission, also CAL FIRE, steps in, because we do have a law in California called CEQA, which, we're hoping that they say that Sable has to abide by CEQA, which they haven't done yet, which is really unfortunate, and that's where, the public comes in, because the Coastal Commission is having this meeting in Santa Barbara next week. That's why it's really important that we get a bunch of people to show up, especially because Newsom is going after the Coastal Commission, again, really unfortunate. That's kind of where the public plays into it, is making sure that these state agencies regulate this.
Senator Lala?
I'll keep this brief. Thanks again for always being so present.
Yeah.
What do you mean exactly by the Newsom administration going behind the commission? And I'm asking not just out of curiosity, but if I'm not mistaken, most of your work centers on the statewide level. So what does that mean here, and what's going on? What's the context behind it?
Okay. Okay, essentially, I mean, there's a big article about it recently. I don't know if it was the New York Times, but Newsom, I'm gonna talk more about Newsom. Essentially just the Coastal Commission was, overstepping their jurisdiction. Some of their decisions have gone like more inland, more inland than the coast, and they're called the Coastal Commission. That's kind of what he said publicly, so that they shouldn't be able to do that. And part of that is the Sable thing, because the Refugio pipeline lies more inland. So people generally, including the Newsom administration, are saying that the Coastal Commission shouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe it's just a lot of political posturing for him.
I agree.
Are there any further questions? Okay, there are none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Queen Allah on the Kamaya veto.
It's Allah.
Queen Allah, sorry.
Allah.
Allah?
Yes.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Queen Allah. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I don't have anything prepared, but, do you need to read me the speaker thing?
Yeah, I'll just read it. You have 2.5 minutes to speak with 2 minutes for Q&A. Please say your name, pronouns, and enunciate, but refrain from yelling. Speculation of the senator's intentions and abilities is prohibited and will result in strikes. Through strikes, you will be removed from the ability to speak on the floor. Please don't speak when it's being recorded. You may speak on any issue, whether it's on the agenda or not. Please include content warning for the graphic and be only about once, and you may choose not to answer questions.
You need to say my name and everything again.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Queen Allah. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I serve as the external needs advocate for AS's program, Black Women's Health Collaborative. And I'm here honestly just speaking in solidarity with my chair. I believe that the fact that this veto or this decision was made and not open a public record is a little bit unethical, you know. Granted, I'm not totally familiar with ASB code and how all that works, but, as a member who she serves as my chair, I think it was interesting that this investigation or lack thereof didn't extend to us, because I feel like that's how you get a comprehensive understanding of something like that. And, just speaking from my personal experience and being under her this entire time, she's the most dedicated about business individual that I've ever met, you know, besides probably my mom. So I just think it's interesting that when we talk about things like equity in an institution where less than 5% of the student body is Black students, and in particular, Black women and non-men, that when we're talking about equity, that's something that you guys are trying to hinder. I believe that that's something that you guys are trying to hinder. So it just calls into question, like, what equity means on this campus and like what it all stands for. Because like a lot of these people who are sitting at this table, you know, our organization lobbied for, we voted for, and to see that this is how we're treating Black women on this campus, it's unreal. And it's just not what I would have expected from this group of individuals. So I really like, ultimately, I'm up here to say that like I stand firmly behind my chair, and I think that she served this campus in beautiful ways. And I think what we've done is great work. And, you know, not to extend that you guys are not also doing great work, but I'm confused. I would love if this investigation or if this vote to be made, the details of it to be made public, just for, you know, transparency purposes. Because as a person who serves under this chair, if she's being, you know, barred from being a chair of another organization, I would like to know why. You know, and I think our organization deserves to know why. So yeah, I think you know, there's some miscarriages of justice and some miscarriages of equity all around. And, you know, I would love to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think transparency is important in situations like this, and it just hasn't been any.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Butler?
Just a point I wanted to touch on. If you go to our Facebook page, our YouTube, the whole meeting that ended at 3 a.m. is it's public record. You can specifically see even the set in motion with regards to the appointment on there, and then also our minutes are public and accessible to all entities as well.
You can, I do just have to say as like general guidance, whatever was discussed in closed session is technically not on the Zoom or public
okay.
record. Whatever was discussed in open session is. Was that your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay, I think I have one person left, but their name is crossed out, so I'm not sure if they're still going. Caitlin Lewis, you still want to speak? You okay? All right. Thank you everyone for speaking at public forum. Before we go back into new business, I want to give time for a cabinet report from the Internal Vice President's office. So if our Chief Compliance Officer, David Junior Sim, would like to take the podium and talk to us about a report.
I have two things
Okay,
to talk about. I don't know how you want to split up the.
whichever order you think is best.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Happy spring quarter. It's day 3. I'm already so tired. But I have two things that really are leftovers from the last meeting in winter to discuss with you guys. Let's jump into it. The first one, and both of these are on my website. And they should also be linked, probably not on this Senate email chain, but on the last meeting for winter something email chain. But if you guys need it, just send me an email. First one is recommendation 25 WQ02201458, which is the recommendation on the ability for association members to receive extra pay. This interesting event came up because of a project that the president and the EDPLA office has been doing for, I believe, 2 years now. Their offices have been creating a wonderful collaboration grant called Raise the Bar within California, and it's been a tremendous success. Due to that success, the state of California wishes to compensate the offices for their time. This compensation is made, strangely enough, not to the office, but to the president, President Broadway and EDPLA Myers personally, within their official capacity. Currently, legal code does not state or give any guidance as to how members of the association can or should receive external pay. It does state that, there are two sections that state about honoraria and stipends, but those are all coming from student fees. This is a, stipend that's coming from outside of student fees, specifically from the state of California. Thus, my office is recommending a new area or section or standing policy of whatever you guys really want to clarify how this will have to work. Unfortunately, the money for this specific issue is already here. An invoice has been sent out, the check is already in here, it's already on the association's books. If we do deny that, it's a bit of an iffy process. So my recommendation is a formal legislation to grant an exception to the relevant sections within VCU bylaws that that may suggest a prevention of external pay for this case only. Then it'll be up to the Senate and you guys to decide what you guys want to do with, whether association members should receive external pay or they should be barred from entirely. And if they do receive external pay, some suggestions as to how they might spend. So yeah, that's what's going on right now. It is on my full recommendation is on my website for you guys to take a look at, and I'll be taking questions for this.
Senator Mean.
My first question is, I don't know if you want me to rephrase, let me know, but essentially, if there's no rule that says that we can, why specifically come to this Senate and ask us to write legislation to okay it if there's no rule against it?
It's not really asking you guys to write legislation to okay it. It's more so asking you guys to write legislation to clarify what you guys want. I'm not saying that it should be okay or it should not be okay. I'm just saying there's nothing in legal code that says anything about it. With this case coming up, it is definitely an edge case, but I can see in the future where some member may try to go outside and use their official capacity as whatever role they have in the association for pay that's outside of their honoraria. That's a question that the Senate has to answer, whether it be this body or a future body that has to answer and close up that loophole. Or to clarify, I should say.
Senator Singh.
Thank you for coming, CCO. I'm just interested to know that the program they're getting this money from, was that started by the current presidential administration?
No, it was started, I believe, by the previous president of EBPLA through their office, but California State has explicitly written the checks out to the current president and EBPLA.
Senator Iden.
Would you mind just providing some clarification on where the funding is from? Was it earmarked for any intended uses or is it available for personal use?
As to where the funds come from, I am personally not sure. All I know is that it is not for student fees. It is a grant that's managed by the state of California in collaboration with the president and EBPLA office.
Senator Iden.
Is it earmarked for specific usages or personal usage?
It is just, it's marked as a stipend, specifically for the two individuals.
Senator Mean.
I have a feeling that some people are gonna disagree, but I don't think that this is the Senate's place to get involved. If there's nothing against it, it should just go through. I hear you, I'm happy to engage in writing legislation for it if we have to, but if there's nothing and there hasn't been anything, I don't think that we need to.
I completely understand. I will say the issue that I personally foresee is that there is nothing that explicitly gives guidance on this. There are sections, which I believe I referenced in my recommendation, that hints at whether it's allowed or not, and it could be interpreted some way or another. When the dust settles, worst comes to worst, it'll go to a JC case, basically. If you guys don't do anything, I'm not saying you guys have to, but if you guys don't, in my mind, sooner or later, this issue will be brought up at JC.
Yeah, I just want to say, no matter what you think about it, like as the legislature, whatever you think about it, it's exactly how you should want the bylaws of whatever policy or standing policy we make to look like. Because otherwise it's gonna be interpreted by whoever's on judicial council next year. Just putting that out there. Are there any further questions on this part of the CCO's report? Senator Mean?
My point was that I think vague words are better because they get to be interpreted by whoever is on JC or whoever the student rep, whoever's on the Senate at that time. And so you get a more current response. That was it.
Yeah, I wasn't disagreeing with anyone, by the way. Are there any further questions? Okay, you can move on to your second report.
So my second report is a case number 25WQ0203-031834. Compliance issues with a bill to create the AS Rices de Niteria. I don't think of that, I'm sorry. Issues. You can read the full 19-page reports. However, TLDR from the Senate, in order to protect the BCU and to make it valid within the association, it has to be rewritten. There are a lot of places that, I should say, 90% of it contradicts what is currently in place. It contradicts financial policy, it contradicts AS bylaws, it contradicts parts of standing policy. I have, I believe, multiple pages of recommendations on the specific sections of the BCU article. So this is just to bring to your attention. It's long. If you guys need more time to look at it and call me back for questions, I'm more than happy to come back.
Senator Sandy?
We're gonna find this report.
It'll be on my website. So it's compliance.as.ucsb.edu. And then if you go to internal compliance reports, and internal compliance documents and cases, it'll be there.
CCO, I just wanted to ask as like a point of clarification, because I think this is new to everyone. Was administration involved in this, like associate students, professional staff, in terms of determining compliance with existing AS policies?
No, all compliance determination is made by my office.
Senator Martinez?
Could you send the report, on an email?
Yes, I can link it to the current thread for today.
Also CCO, it's totally at your discretion, but maybe if you wanted to go over like some of the things that were mentioned in the report, but it's up to you.
Let me just quickly send this email to everybody real quick.
You don't have to, it's up to you.
I mean, does the Senate want to know? I know you guys have other things to do as well.
It's up to the Senate.
Yeah, okay. Let me get this out. Here we go. Okay. If we look at. Yes, see. Article 11, section 18.m.1 specifies the overall responsibilities of the academic chair as defined under this BCU. The anonymous concerned student's concern is that this section requires a second year or above at UCSB to fill this position. Such a requirement is illegal under this association and can be considered discrimination. I'll read out a few more over here. Article 10, section 18.j describes this section zero tolerance policy. This section is superseded by the university zero tolerance policy and the AS zero tolerance policy. The anonymous concerned student is to include the mention of the association's attorney general and student advocate general as resources. If such a section is to be included, resources other than the chairs should be included for the sake of the members, as the chair positions are not excluded from this section either. Article 11, section 18.I describes the financial aspect of the section. This section is invalid completely due to policy 33, which is financial policy superseding it. And that is in direct contradiction. Um. Let's see, some smaller things here and there. Article 11, section 18.h specifies the affiliation of the VCU. This office notes that while these affiliations are formalized through legal codes, they must still follow UC policy and association policy in collaboration with AS admin and career staff to ensure compliance. Article 11, section 18.g2.4 mentions performance contracts. The office notes that all contracts must be through proper channels as described under legal code section policy 33, which is financial policy. Just a few of those for you, and there is, in total, this report is 14 pages. So I would give about maybe half that for this stuff and recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions for the CCO, Senator Singh?
Yeah, PCO, I had a question on for your previous report.
Oh, yes.
Before. 15, not for you. Policy 15 is about conflict of interest, right?
Yes.
And it bars officers from engaging in activities where a personal benefit could improperly influence decisions or actions in their official role. Basically, it prohibits officers from using their official role to obtain like financial benefit unless it's like.
It bars them from obtaining personal gain. However, in this case specifically, it really wasn't personal. It was for a grant for the public's gain.
Senator Singh?
But is it not personal gain because it?
Well, they didn't know. Yeah, this stipend was not like part of the renewal period. It was spurred on to the association. Even the executive director was surprised about it as well. There was no communication about the stipend until it was flying our way.
Are there any further questions for the CCO or either report? All right, if there are none, thank you so much for your time, CCO Singh.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we are now gonna move back into new business. The first piece of legislation we're gonna be discussing is a bill to peg AS Judicial Council's honoraria to Senate standing committees. The first is Senator Zaw, and I'll just yield my time because I'm chairing. So Senator Zaw, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. The reason I propose this bill is that in addition to the weekly meeting that our SBCO has, JC has additional duty of hearing case, which is often time sensitive at very short notice. I'll give an example. When there was a case brought up about the constitution amendment for the special election, JC has less than 16 hours from receiving the complaint and schedule a hearing, which is for week 10, I believe, or week 9. And the meeting goes on for literally hours and hours. Currently, JC, due to its sensitive nature of interpretation of the Constitution, will be required to take action in short notice in order to compensate or recognize their contributions. I believe it's proper to peg the honoraria to a senior standing committee's equivalent. So all this bill does is, well, let's say there is the chair of JC, there's a chair of senior standing committee, their honoraria will be the same. So it's a pegging system. And it's still lower than senior leadership because, let's be honest, I would think JC is not that much work compared to Senate. So I find that being a good balance point. And yeah.
Does anyone else have any comments on the legislation? Senator Brinderson?
You have like the numbers of like how much the honorarium is going up? I feel it's a little vague in the legislation.
Senator Zaw?
Thank you for the catch. Yes, I will include that in the final version of the legislation, which will be voted next week. But from a rough estimate, I believe it's about $1,500.
Senator Brinderson?
What was it previously?
Senator Zaw?
So previously, the JC is paid as a normal BCU, so 450 for chair and 300 for council member.
Senator Iden.
Just sharing my thoughts on this. I'm not a fan of this legislation. I'm not exactly. I don't really get excited about raising one, entity's honoraria compared to like everyone else's honoraria. I prefer it to all be standard, in my opinion. I understand there's like discrepancies when it comes to like Senate and execs, but obviously those are very different roles, as JC is. But in this scenario, in respect to fairness, I don't see a need to do so with a raise, is my opinion.
Senator Zaw.
Mr. Chair, I fully understand the point of Senator Iden, and I wholeheartedly believe that AS is now overdue for honorary review. We are getting about, I'll say, $5 per hour of the work. That has to go. But in the meantime, while we work on the broader improvement, it doesn't mean we couldn't make any small improvement. Even with that new legislation that Senate passed, JC is still the lowest paying branch compared to the executive and legislative. Given it's the judicial branch and the representative office, perhaps it's my opinion that it's proper to be paid at least to a Senate standing committee. Yeah.
Senator Iden.
So just to confirm, so I understand your reason a bit more now. You're viewing it separately from a BCU and raising it to the stat, like this equivalent of like the same level of the Senate. My only issue with that is I understand they do a lot of important work. As does every BCU, especially when it comes to like, BCUs with a lot of responsibilities, like really big BCUs who do a lot of events on campus. I get it. I still don't think that fully convinces me. The other issue is, at least with honoraria, and before we even go to a vote on this, is just having a discussion with finance, because I've had a lot of discussion with the Associate Director of Finance and Budget about this, about raising honoraria. Is it really does eat up our budget every year, and increases are extremely hard with our current capacity. And I don't feel comfortable starting that process of like raising honoraria itself. That's just where I'm at.
Senator Martinez.
I just want to make a quick motion to excuse Senator Butler after 7:41 p.m.
Been a motion to excuse Senator Butler after 7:41 p.m. Senator Al-Khatib. Seconded by Senator Al-Khatib. Senator Lakarani. Question has been called. Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. We're now back in discussion on the Senator Singh.
What is the financial impact?
Thumbs up.
Around yearly below $1,500.
Senator Lawler.
I mean, a part of my argument was gonna be that is gonna be rather negligible, the cost that is, because it's quite a few. Is that what the smile meant? I thought it meant the opposite. Okay, I guess he's in support of that part. But I think more importantly, this would make sense structurally, because sure, JC is an entity in some sense, but it's also the representative of the judicial branch. So it makes sense for the representatives of the third branch to have their pay somewhat in line with those in leadership in the other two branches, while recognizing that it doesn't necessarily have the same work requirements that being a senator, especially being an executive, has. So I'm in support of this. I think it makes sense.
Senator Lee. Okay.
But I appreciate your opinion.
Senator Singh.
I kind of see where Senator Iden is coming from. We already started our budget process this past week. We have a good insight financials, but at the same time, Senator Lawler makes some good points and Rizal makes some good points. They are basically equivalent to what there are 3 branches. They are one of the main branches. So I don't see any reason why they should not have the same honorary as us.
Senator Iden.
When would you say that JC is doing most of their work during the quarter?
Senator Zaw.
I'd love to give an answer, but I really can't. The workload of JC depends on how many cases are filed and how urgent the case is. in the case of the election, the constitution amendment, we have from the moment we get the complaint to the moment we had a hearing, it's less than 16 hours because we had to get a result before Senate. And at date, we are in the hearing from 12 p.m. all the way to, I believe, 3 p.m. because I have a final exam on 3:30. So that's the. Of course, BCO has a lot of work, but it's as someone who worked at BCO in CDC for a long time, it's expected. I can plan around when I will do my work. But JC is really not. So I think that's one of the uniqueness of JC and Yelp.
Senator Iden, final question. How many cases has JC had the past 2 quarters? Fall and winter?
Senator Zong.
Thank you, including on the rural appeal, I believe. I'll have to double check that with the Chair Krishna on that, but I think it's between 5 and 10 cases, somewhere in between.
Senator Iden.
Motion to table a bill to peg AS judicial councils honorary to Senate standing committees.
Senator Amin.
Second.
There's been a second on a motion to table a bill to peg AS Judicial Council honorary to Senate standing committees. Do I hear the call to question? Senator Chaudhary. Question has been called. Do I hear any objections? Consent.
For how long?
It's just, if it's unspoken, it's generally just till next meeting. It's just till next meeting, generally when it's.
Well, okay, no, just a table. Yeah, it's assumed to be 1 week. He's correct. It's assumed to be 1 week, but it doesn't say specifically. Do you rescind your objection? I do. Are there any objections to the consent? Seeing none, motion passes. Senator Zaw.
Thank you, Chair. I move to amend the agenda of the day and add a bill to revise the CCC legal code under new business.
Okay, there's been a motion to add a bill to revise the GUC legal code to the agenda. Senator Iden. Seconded by Senator Iden. Do I hear a question? Senator Kadah. Question has been called. Do I hear any objections? Do I hear any objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, we can now go into discussion on a bill to revise the GGC legal code. So I'll defer to the first, Senator Zaw. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So it's really a very simple bill. It doesn't really add anything. For instance, community contribution specialist, it was there and it will stay in there. The fact it's not changed. Nowadays, it's just a normal legal code update. It's passed by the CDC in an email vote, I believe. Shall we told me that? So yeah, CDC wants to update their legal code, and I'm happy to bring it to Senate.
Cool. The second is not here and they don't have a proxy. So we're now open for discussion on this piece of legislation. If there's no discussion, people can make motion. Senator Zaw.
I move to table a bill to revise the CDC legal code for a week.
The motion to table a bill to revise the GDC legal code for a week. Is there a second? Senator Kadah.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Kadah. Do I hear call the question?
Question. Yeah.
Senator Suk. Question has been called by Senator Suk. Are there any objections? Are
Consent.
there any objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, why don't we move into item I5, Executive Director's Report, Director Lieberman, if you're ready.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. Got just a few fun things here. One is that this room will be renovated. I think tentative start date is next week. So what that means is, I don't know if everyone's up to date on what that is. But we won't have to bring in the owl any longer, and we'll actually be able to hear everybody. So what's happening is we're putting in an owl here. So 4K, be able to see
whoever's here, they'll come around, be really nice, don't have to like find it and get access to it. We'll have a microphone array in the ceiling that we can turn on and off basically from over by where everything is plugged in over there. So it'll be very plug and play. You have a laptop, plug in, you press the button, you go. We've been wanting this for a very long time, so it's finally happening, which also means that this meeting will be relocated to the State Street room, the Harbor room, the State Street room, and we'll be back there May 7th. Is currently what they're saying. So it's not too long to get this done, but we wanted to have this happen in the summer and it didn't for a variety of reasons. So at least it's happening. I'm open to questions about all this stuff. I'm gonna go over about 6 things. Travel questions and policy. I just want to remind folks that all travel needs to go through our travel portal that we have. And this very much includes retreats, anything out of the area, anything overnight, definitely. Everything should go through the travel portal and as quickly as you can. Like you can even start the process before you get funding, so that Holly, who's in charge of travel, knows what's going on. All travel must include details about the trip and approved minutes from the group. And all that should include who's going, how eligibility was determined for who's going, where people are traveling to, the business to be discussed and more. The reason I'm saying this anything to the Senate is because you all approve exceptions for travel, basically. People come to you and say, hey, can we get an exception for travel? And usually that's, retreats and things of that nature. So when they do come to you, I want to encourage you to ask those questions, like, where are you going? Who's going? How many people are going? All of that, so that you know what's going on with the things that you're approving. In addition, we want for all travel second signers on that. We prefer a way to figure out the signers on this, but second signers to be staff for travel expenses. So that's hotels, that's tickets, that's the actual flights or things like that, train, whatever it is. Advisors would be preferable, like that group's advisors for that, as an additional check, like upfront to make sure everything is according to code, basically. This is like, I know that you all take responsibility of being good stewards of student fees, and we really take it seriously. So I hope that we all come together on this, and that can just be something that becomes second nature when people come to you for travel. And just say, hey, could you give us additional details on this. Travel reimbursements over a certain amount, we haven't determined yet, will also receive extra scrutiny. I got a list of all the reimbursements. I know I've been interim for 5 whole weeks, but trying to take a big picture look at things. That's kind of how my brain operates. So anything over a certain amount, we're going to take a look at for reimbursements, because we don't want those to be as common as necessarily they are. Most reimbursements are just food, and that's expected and fine, but some are not. And maybe some of those things can be gone through Gateway, gone through other systems in which the university has already set things up. Because when it doesn't go through those systems, we have to, in the back end, provide support and provide, why were these choices made? Why was it this vendor? Did you have 2 other vendors to choose from? Like, we get a lot of questions on that end. So we have to make it fit into the policy of the UC, in addition to whatever our legal code and financial policy and procedures are, right? On those same lines, just encourage increasing everyone's use of documentation and reasoning as required for all decisions. Even if legal code doesn't explicitly say you have it. Because otherwise, the optics of something can easily be made to seem as if there is a bias. So when you have rationale attached to something, that's much preferred. And even if, like I said, it's not explicitly stated within the legal code. A yearly reminder that all communications for doing business should be in the formal channels. So Slack, email, Zoom, things like that. We can get into that more if people have questions about that. Just I have that reminder once a year. Elections are coming up. I have a big hand in that and always have. I know everyone knows elections are coming.
But in case you have any questions, just know that I've been doing the elections since elections went online. And the fun one, so that was all less fun. The fun one is that I don't think we told the staff this yet, is that we have does everyone know our Storky character? Yeah. Okay, we have a Storky mascot coming. So we have a full-size human costume coming, that is in collaboration with Public Affairs. Because they came to us about it, and we're like, okay, that sounds interesting. So, you'll see, it's not gonna come until I think probably June. Cause they have to make it. So there'll be, I know people have seen like the cardboard version out there. There's a couple people I think that make cardboard store keys, which is pretty easy because it's just flat surfaces. So we have a non-cardboard version that looks like a team mascot. And it looks, the mock-ups are great, like, maybe I'll share those things. But that is coming pretty soon, so it'll be like 40% Public Affairs to use for their socials and stuff, and like 60% us. So you'll see Storky during our AS events and table and things like that. So, and we also have access to, CCS has maybe you've seen it, the giant inflatable our sock puppet thing that they let us borrow that. So we're gonna borrow that, I think, probably after weeks or something on Annex Law. So no, that was a lot of a download there, but anyone have a question?
Senator Iden?
Just really quickly, because I noticed there was 2 resignations from elections board on our agenda tonight. Are you anticipating any issues with that for the upcoming election?
Issues just in general?
Yeah.
No, we have, elections is a big process, right? And there's a lot of things going on, including getting things to UCOP for approval. Making the ballot and getting that done that's always my basic job. But I don't think so. And the fact, the chair left, but new chair is coming in for all of that. I think things will go.
I'll address the senator's concerns. The resignations are because the current chair is doing UCDC for this quarter. So they're just promoting the vice chair to the chair position. What was emailed to me was the request from Chair Hansen himself to replace himself with Ruby in the resignations. I added the resignations and appointments to the agenda, but the appointments have not been confirmed by President Broadway, and I'm still waiting on that. And I really don't want to not appoint the elections board people today. So if someone can get in contact with the president and just get her to confirm that via email, so we don't run into any issues. So you can get that done today, because I want to add that back to the agenda before we adjourn. Are there any further questions? Senator Singh?
Thank you, John, for your report. I just have a quick couple of questions. Does that travel and portable thing apply to our field as well, or is that
No, it does not currently apply to our students.
Okay.
Considered it, but it's complicated.
Right. And about that 3 vendors thing, so whenever someone comes to my committee asking for money to buy something, we always ask for the 3 vendors.
Right.
I understand that we don't always forward it to you. Should we start doing that, or?
It's typically, I think we only ask if questions come to play, like about the expenditure of funds or something else about it. And I mostly brought those up as an example, like with travel, I don't need you to look at Delta, American, United, like that's not what it's for. But it's also just for fair play, right? Because also, when you're buying from somebody, we want to make sure you have family associated with that group, because that's not okay. And we don't know that for a lot of things, so just the more detail the better. But yeah, that's a good point.
Senator Bridgerton?
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for stepping into such huge shoes. I guess I have a question about travel as well. Is this related to any ongoing issues, or is this just a reminder?
There are ongoing things, but this is, like I said, been 5 weeks. And so I'm coming and looking at some things that maybe have been weaknesses. And so the travel thing, definition of what is travel, still, a little bit of a weakness, but travel exemptions being, what's the percentage of travel exemptions that are granted? Is it 100%? With travel things that come up, what level of detail have the groups submitted? That's an important thing. So I'm just now becoming aware of the back end of things. Well, this is this, okay. Was this proper? Was this proper? And so I want to head all that off. I don't want it to come to that. I don't want to have to look at a requisition in the back end besides signing off on something. I want to be able to be like, oh, this was appropriate because everyone knows the rules and all the checks makes all the judgments. And this is my method of being like, hey, I think this check is an important check. The Senate is a very important check on this because you grant that exception for travel. So please ask the proper question with that, because otherwise, and also use the portal. Because then the, liability also decreases when we do that, right? When people travel and they don't tell us that, like, we're going to this place with these people on this date, and we don't know, that is definitely a problem.
Senator Lala?
Thank you, Director, for the cohesive report as always. I wanted to go back to a question the Senator Singh asked earlier, because first off, I think it fully makes sense for ES entities to go through a more thorough process here. I think it fully makes sense. You said that you guys had considered RCOs being included in this reform, but ultimately decided against it. And I'm sorry, you said it was complex, but what exactly was the considerations going into it? Because from my experience, I think it does make sense and is a positive step not to include them in it, especially because RCOs and their advisors are often not very directly linked. It's often just someone who is like, oh, I know that professor, let's just put them down on paper, and you've actually never spoken to them in years.
Yeah.
So I suppose a part of me is advising that keep it this way and in future terms, but also wanted to get your rationale on why you decided against it.
It's very, very much that, is that
Okay,
in the past, RCOs had more direct advising.
sure.
And it's much less so now. So it's like, well, who is in charge of that? Who is our point of contact even
No.
for anyone who's not a student in that group? I mean, it's hard. It's like, well, just the, director of SEAL, like,
Mhm.
that's not appropriate.
Right,
So it has to be something else. And we haven't quite figured out what that workflow would look like.
sure.
Like, would it be within our own portal? Would it be something within Shoreline that we could work out that accommodates maybe the year, maybe funding to them?
Yeah,
And it's a bigger issue that won't even just dip my toes in the water to like look at. But because travel is such a sticky thing.
makes sense. Thank you.
Senator Singh?
Yeah, so just talking about that again, what if we like start having them to fill out forms with all that information, like, oh, do you have anyone? And do you know anyone in this company, is that what you're buying for them? Like, all the details, all the and other vendors that they consider as well. But if we just have them fill out a form every time they submit a requisition,
For your opinion?
or like anyone that's purchasing like items or like travel or stuff like that.
It could be something that's explicit to the form, really, like, yeah, I like, because conflict of interest is a thing that is something big that's on my agenda. For the conflict of interest is almost entirely university defined as financial, right? It's like, are you or someone in your direct, like, family benefiting from what you're doing?
Yeah.
We could integrate some of that to be more explicitly in a requisition, just period.
Yeah.
That might be helpful, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to make the requisition like 10 pages long, and I want to make it transparent, like, so that when you're signing, you know what you're signing. That's all really important, but I like that, that makes sense. Like, because we all sign conflict of interest statements, we sign, but conduct statements, and those are like blanket things. And then as you see policy, it's a blanket thing, but to be reminded of it in the moment of making a purchase is also probably beneficial.
Senator Zah?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Executive Director Nikolai. I want to start by thank you for your efforts, especially recently with also administrative duties. And speaking for myself, I think you have done a great job, and I want to offer my appreciation to you as other students here at USSB. Of course, yes, my question is, about that, I want to say, I also fully support your move to increase the level of compliance when it comes to travel, when it comes to reputation. There's no doubt about that. All relevant policies should be compliant with. With that said, historically speaking, I would say there has been not that clear communication of the expectations when it comes to travel, comes to reputation, which in turn lead to some group may have done what they thought as the right process, but find out in the end it's not. Well, there'll be a way for those group to kind of make up for those missing documents. Yeah, so education training is an important part of this too, right? So people knowing what is allowable, what is not allowable, and
heading it off hopefully before things are extended, right? So we don't want it to get to the point where someone does something and then we it shouldn't have been extended and it's against policy, whether that's the legal code or financial policy procedures, internal, or it's UC policy, right? And so part of that is the training when we're onboarded, when it, like the, AS1 and all those other things that we come into. Part of that is the authorized signatures training, right? When everyone becomes an authorized signer so you can sign for your group, you are trained on what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And yeah, like the training is 45 minutes, something like that. So the training is a little less than an hour, but it does cover a fair bit of things. Like I remember because we have it every year too. Like it's fairly comprehensive. It can't cover everything, obviously. And we try to have some leeway and some grace when mistakes are made. And so we'll talk to people about that. So that is built into it, right? So there is a grace of things. It's not dictatorial, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I would just want the education to begin here too, right? That we're all on the same page about what we can do, what we can't do. And a part of that is about your advisors also, right? So it's the training that finance committee offers. It's the onboarding that we get in general as senators, as just members of the association. And it's also the advisor who needs to be aware of all these things too, right? So let's not forget that step. Your advisor should know let's say it's travel. Your advisor should know where you're traveling, who's traveling, and because you use the site. That is the thing, like because it's on the site, the portal's there, we know where people are. If someone is injured, that's a really big deal. And that has happened. People have gotten injured. We need contact information for them, for their parents or guardian. Like we need all that stuff to be safe and to cover everybody. And when we don't have that, that's a problem. So this is me letting everyone here know, and we will end up sending out these kind of guidelines to everybody. It's not just gonna be blah, blah, blah right now. It's gonna be in a text form later too. And I've run this stuff by our FinOps team and they gave me the thumbs up for this too. So yeah, it's not gonna be a hammer coming down. We're gonna discuss it among.
Senator Iden?
Just really briefly, jumping back to the UCOB and the ballot, UCOP and the ballot. Do you know when we might get approval? And if else we already have, and the flexibility with amending the ballot following that?
I mean, I like to lock down the ballot as early as possible, but I understand that, things being submitted to UCOP, we don't have approval yet. It does take time. We can pressure them because we're on a timetable here and tap our watch dramatically and hope that they get back to us, not hope, know that they'll get back to us. This is what we kind of do most years. It's like, hey, this document needs to send another email, or where is that? Most likely send another email. Or Holly sent an email, right? To be like, hey, we need this for the state to lock it down because I need to test. Like that's a big, I test the ballots. Because the ballot is GSA, AS, and then CEC is split. So I have to test the language, test the logic, make sure it works. I got, pick your top 12 of the senators and make sure that whole thing works. It's a complicated thing. And when the language isn't settled or the candidates aren't settled, but we have a mechanism for candidates that drop out late. So it's fine. It's not a big issue. But for the language of the ballot initiative, that is. And all the reaffirmations, that's pretty much set. It doesn't change except for possibly the new fees and the increases. That's where it gets a little bit hairier. So I'm able to make changes up to pretty close to it. I don't want to say when, because I don't want everyone to delay until then. Whether that's this body or, the UCOP lawyers who might give it time.
Senator Singh?
Just a question, not really related to most of what you talked about today. I want to ask about that stored email stuff.
Yeah.
Will it belong to a particular VCU? Or?
No.
No.
Yep, it's right now, well, kind of, it depends if CMU wants to, I think CMU is putting money towards it, or whether that be just our marketing budget. If it's just our general marketing budget, then definitely no. If CMU does it, CMU is also just in charge of marketing. So we'd like more than happy to have it out for elections, to have it out for, like, it's too bad it's not gonna be here in time for extravaganza. Like, that's something that the thing I'm thinking, myself about, but like program board concerts, cab events like the book fair, like, I can imagine it being a ton of different things. We're looking into how we can outfit it with like pockets, so we can give out store key and Mapache kind of stickers and keychains and things like that, just raising awareness, having something a little bit fun here, because I never see a leg ever. So I've heard that Little League isn't even really at the like basketball games and things anymore, which is really strange. So having something just fun that's out there that can also promote like, well, AS did that. And I think that's, and I get people identifying with UCSB. And that's what like our welcome bags are about, for publication and all that kind of thing. Like, I think that's really important for it. And part of my normal job is I supervise Chelsea in charge of the quality budget and like doing that kind of thing, that kind of outreach.
Interesting. So hypothetically, students can volunteer to be the master.
Yes, we do not have a person in mind to be inside the basket. No, I don't remember if there are height restrictions or anything. It does look very cool. I'm very happy with how it's turned out. It has big like fluffy shoes. It's got like the 4-finger gloves, kind of like Mickey, Mouse kind of situation. But it looks very good. And we are conjuring a Mapache version. Public affairs, less excited about that.
Are there any further questions? All right, thank you so much. Senator Sue?
Can I give you a report? Can I?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I'd also like to give one.
Today we had our coffee chat communication IS. It went really well, pretty good turnout. I'm a little sad that not a lot of you guys showed up, but it was decent. Big shout out to everyone that did come, and shout out to my committee for helping out with it. Since not all of you guys were there, I thought I'd review some of the things that we went over, so these things just don't disappear into the void. First thing we talked about was events like that. We kind of came to the conclusion that liaison committee should host events similar every quarter. So I'm probably gonna be writing that into our committee bylaws or our legal code. So when I leave, hopefully the next people will be, well, not hopefully, they will have to do it. Staff said that they enjoyed it. I think having an informal setting is really cool and something we don't really get to do very often. On that note, we talked about as one. I have a lot of thoughts on as one, since it's kind of our main forum for having a conversation like that. Talked about how we think it can improve. Talked about how president next year should probably collaborate with staff on it, also with students more. We came to the conclusion that, or I heard from pro staff a lot that it's important to emphasize what students need to know now in that moment. Focus on the issues that students need to know in fall especially. So just wanting to keep in mind, whoever the president is going to be next year, I'll probably be sending them a report on that. Yeah, and then the next thing we talked about was trainings. It's something that is an ongoing issue, something I'm still trying to address. I know me and Senator Ivey talked about it. So, keep an eye on that. We're gonna be kind of rethinking that a little bit. I think that's all I've got. I am also, I heard that Holly is coming up with an event space for the new senators. To kind of meet up with the old senators, when we hand off at the top. I want this to be something that liaison committee, perhaps I would be a part of. I know when we came into this space, it kind of happened in a very negative way. I don't think anyone said, oh, congrats, this is great, like good for you. It's like nothing. I just kind of sat there and listened to how bad AS was, how inefficient it was. And I think you know, it wasn't very useful, so I think being able to hand that off would be really helpful, and hopefully some of us can attend that, and hopefully I'll become a bigger part of that, and yeah, but. And yeah, if they don't have any questions.
No, yeah, tried. Okay, begin.
Awesome. We're this without notes, we'll see how it goes. Just wanted to give a quick advocacy committee report because it's 20-minute. A lot of fun stuff. Just kind of starting with Leah. I believe you're doing IVTU canvassing this quarter, for a lot of the cliff safety initiatives. I'm not sure if you were able to reach out to Ariman, in the meantime, but also we're trying to get, I don't know if you guys have talked about getting I think it's the rental compensation program, out as well to try and do like a large grassroots effort. So that's like a really cool project. I think we're also working with, Senator Gerson as well on that. Awesome. And then Senator Bernison has obviously done a lot of work. I know we spoke about it already, with floor caps, which is really cool. Our last meeting, we were really just trying to discuss how we potentially mitigate some of the concerns that we had when it comes to like rent raises, because the fines. I think it's a really sticky issue, so we'll see how it goes. I think just making everyone aware of the potential ramifications when it comes to the program is going to be the most important. But just like those are two very big grassroots efforts that are going on right now. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an IVCRC town hall this quarter, unless that was your thing. I don't remember. Regardless, there's an IVCRC town hall going on this quarter at some point for those projects. I should actually know. But kind of moving on, Senator Boss has done a lot of great work with CCS. I believe that they're able to meet with the actual dean of CCS to discuss their accessibility ramp. Hopefully that project can kind of lead the way to more like ADA compliance across campus. I think it's a super cheap ramp, which is really cool. So it doesn't have to be like custom built or anything, just already pre-made, get it in there. So that's going to be a really cool improvement. Senator Sigi, I know you've been working on the van that we trying to requisition, to kind of see how we utilize that towards the food bank. So that could be a really cool improvement. I understand that food bank is getting fridges now, which kind of everyone talked about, but then I'm doing it anyway, which is, you know, sick. I don't think anyone's complaining. Who am I forgetting? Oh, I was then just regarding like this light tunnel project that I've been like airing out the entire year. I had a meeting with the actual lighting contractor. We met like during finals week. It was super cool. He's David Neal. He's a great guy. Does a lot of lighting on campus. So we're finally working with facilities management now. We did a whole inspection of the tunnels together. We're opting for we'll see if it's going to be plastic or more malleable metal, but it's going to be full RGB control. Just move a lot of colors, you know, we can do a lot of cool things, a lot of lighting effects. You know, get something for Pride Month, Halloween, you know, whatever holiday you might want to put out, which is really cool. So again, if anyone wants to join in on that, it'd be a cool thing to say you did. I'd love everyone to be involved. And in terms of funding, I'd love everyone's support. It's looking like the project, I believe like the RGB lights are coming out to about $80,000 for the entire setup. And then that's not including labor costs. I'm doing like an overestimate right now of 150K. Which I understand is an expensive amount. I still think it's a good idea to put funding towards that because it's going to be a permanent thing that's going to last. Like the last tunnel was like done in 2 weeks and it's been here for what, 12 years now, 11 years, which is super cool. So like hopefully this one could be even longer. So it's a long-term investment. I'd love everyone's support regardless, but I guess that's kind of about it. If anyone have any questions?
All right, we don't have much on the agenda. We only have 2 things left and then procedural stuff, so I want to get out of here by 9. So I just appreciate if everyone can just like help me speed it up. I'm just gonna go into minutes and allocations. I'm accepting motions. Senator Iden.
Motion to bundle and approve all minutes and
Motion
allocations.
to bundle and approve all minutes and allocations. Is there a second, Senator Ganesh? Seconded by Senator Ganesh. Do I call the question? Senator Walkerani. Question has been called. Are there objections to call the question? Are there objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Now moving into item L, discussion items, UCIV's DCU status. Senator Zah, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So the reason for that is as the preparation of the outstanding VCU awards. The team finds that although UCIV has done great work and create good student impacts, we cannot recommend for them to receive awards because it's had some legal issues. They are a BCO, but they're also part of the EVPLA's office. So what we are trying to do is having a JSON giving a clear say on it, if they are BCO or not. EVPLA have consented to have the JSON render opinion. I can draft the language, yet.
Okay, Senator Zah,
A motion to invoke the privilege granted to the Senate by Article 8, Section 5, Clause B, subclause 4. And render an opinion on if USIV could enjoy the full benefits and privilege of an AS USSB BCU. I'm typing that.
now that everyone can see the motion, would everyone like to second? Senator Sandy,
I second a motion to invoke the privilege granted to Senate by Article 8, Section 5B. 4 and asking the judicial council to render an opinion on if UCID can enjoy the full benefits and privileges of an ASUCSB BCU. That was a second.
Senator Mean,
Second,
I second that. That was my second.
so call the question.
question has been called. Are there any objections? Any objections to the consent? Seeing none, motion passes. Senator Ganesh. Okay, well, we don't have anything besides appointments, but I don't want to end the meeting without an elections board chair. Oh, wait, no, we have action items, sorry. Moving into action items, Senator Zah.
I move to add R/25 WQ 02/201458. Recommendation on the ability for association members to receive external pay under action items.
Okay, you all can see the motion on the agenda. Is there a second? Senator Wahidola, seconded by Senator Wahidola. Do I hear call the question, Senator Chaudhry? Question has been called. Are there any objections to the call to question? Are there any objections to the consent? Okay, hearing none, motion passes. Yes, Senator Zah.
I move to accept the recommendation made in the report and suspend AS USSB bylaws Article 9 for the purpose of allowing President Nancy Broadway and EVPLA overniers to accept the payment given to them by the state of California for their contribution to the Rest Bar project, and commend Chief Compliance Officer David Sim and his office for the exceptional dedication and professionalism demonstrated in the drafting and execution in the report.
Is there a second on the motion? Senator Iden?
Could I request that we wait on this till we just, so we have the ability, like, I still know what the money was for. I would just like to wait a week if that'd be possible. Considering this was like just sprung this on us tonight, I don't really know all available.
Would you like to rescind your motion, Zah?
Sure, I rescind this motion.
Okay, the motion has been rescinded. Okay, we're out of action items then. So all we have left is appointments. Right? Senator Zah?
If I may, I could suggest a rather creative way of doing the appointment. Even though we're currently lacking the appointment from the president, maybe we can first give the consent of the Senate. So once the president makes her appointment, it will just go through without another vote. If the Attorney General wants to comment.
That's ridiculous.
AJ, you may approach the podium. Senator Iden?
Would I be able to ask Sean a question?
Yeah, sure, once AJ is done.
Can I actually just give a report while we wait for comments?
What, okay, ask your question first. One thing at a time.
Sorry, Sean. Are you gonna face any difficulties with, the appointments not being approved within the next week if we don't do it tonight?
I know you did.
Would the vice chair just not assume the role of chair in the interim? I think that's.
Technically, under line of succession, the vice
So
chair would assume the chair.
we'll be
should.
fine for a week if we don't get it done. Okay.
But there won't be a vice chair, it's fine. That can be done later. Okay.
This is fine.
AJ, go ahead.
While we wait for an email from the president that says I appoint Ruby Hewitt as president, there's a couple things I wanted to bring up. So first and foremost, we're wrapping up some of our water testing. We've analyzed the last 7-ish years now, 8 years of police data. Dr. Marquez, before she left, had forwarded me on some testimonies and things from the 2014 April riots. They go by a different name, that's how I know them colloquially. Sean, I need to talk to you about getting images from here. I have a caseworker on that who's kind of collating what arguments are going to be when we forward that on to whatever municipal courthouse it is in Santa Barbara requesting for a grand jury investigation. I don't exactly know what the process is, but I defer that to my caseworkers. If you guys are curious about what those riots were, there was never an investigation into them in April of 2014 because of the tragedy that ensued immediately a month after. It was completely overshadowed by the events that transpired. If you guys are curious about that kind of history, it's kind of worth looking into. That kind of, as much fun as we have with all of our research and stuff, it's kind of being put on hold due to a somewhat slew of casework thrown my way at the end of last quarter and at the beginning of this quarter. I've been working together with the Student Advocate General's office to try and track down this information, kind of collate things. Another thing is given the chancellor's email as an advisory for anti-Semitism, the Attorney General's office, my office, will be opening up kind of like a free, almost inquiry, so to speak. And I want to invite all of you guys and either contribute anonymously, not anonymously, however you guys feel, in terms of weighing what the chancellor was kind of saying, the current political climate, everything, and how do we protect our Jewish students while at the same time prioritizing free speech? Both, you can do both. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. So with that in mind, though, is that there have been kind of a gross number of anonymous emails that I've gotten from fall quarter concerning anti-Semitism on campus. And this is something that I would really, if we can't kind of reflect on it at the echelons of government that we occupy, I think we kind of got to start here before we start looking. So if we can just kind of, I'll forward you guys an email with some resources and things like that. I'm trying to like look out and see like if you guys wanna, if you guys have seen anything, if you guys are thinking about how, like, wanting to propose solutions or ways that we could like work towards to improve the conditions that we have. And this doesn't have to only be restricted to, anti-Semitism, it'd be around the whole thing. So I'm gonna open up a page on my website, we're gonna kind of pursue it that way. And go from there. So I think that'll be the best way forward from my end. Another thing is I just got an email from the president saying they appoint Ruby Hewitt as elections board chair. I'll forward that on to you guys. And then we'll just go. Yeah, I guess, there's something else, and then that'll kind of conclude everything that I have, so I just want to get this sent to you right now, because I know it takes a couple minutes to load. Right. Another thing is. There's kind of a lot to unpack there. I guess I just want to say that if you guys don't answer emails when we're asking you to be interviewed, it goes immediately to JC. And if you're not there to represent yourself in JC, I encourage you to read my legal code on what it says on what happens when JC rules against you in an attorney general's case. With that in mind, I'm just asking you guys to please be, willing participants and collaborators and try to like help us track down like whatever it is that happened, so that we can get through this without leaving people behind. That sound good? Cool. Thank you guys for your time. I think that's it.
Are there any questions? Are you taking questions?
Yeah, sure, I can take questions.
Questions? Seems like Senator Zah.
Yes, so first of all, I want to thank you for everything that you have done so much. And I was actually having a conversation with AJ just now, and he sounds just so tired. So I guess my question to you is, how many hours a day do you sleep?
Oh, I get enough for me. So it's all good.
So what, 3 hours?
Yeah, somewhere, probably like 5. So, that it, Jim? Thank you, Senator. Did I see hands from over here, or are we good? Cool. All right, thank you guys.
AG, was there an appointment of a vice chair, a new vice chair?
In that email, I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Akita Barada.
Got it. Thank you. Senator Iden.
Motion to add, the following appointments, under appointments on the agenda. Ruby Hewitt as elections board chair, as well as Ahita Varada as vice chair for elections board.
There's been a motion to add the appointments of Ruby Hewitt as chair and Ahita Varada as vice chair of the elections board. Senator Kada,
Second.
seconded by Senator Kada, Senator Lakarani. Question has been called. Are there any objections?
Consent.
Are there any objections to the consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Senator Iden.
Motion to bundle approve all appointments and resignations.
Senator, I would say I did just receive some appointments from committees.
Got you.
If someone wanted to motion to add those on, if you wanted to rescind your motion.
There's my motion.
If Senator Zah,
I move to add Nina, I'm sorry if I butcher anyone's name. I move to add Nina Ashta for sales outreach and recruitment coordinator. Has worked out Blackroom for sales outreach and recruitment coordinator. Ananya who have me for sales outreach and recruitment coordinator. Sophia Faye for sales internal liaison and EJ Wright for sales internal liaison.
Senator Kada,
Second.
And seconded by Senator Kidal. Do I hear a poll question? Senator Whitela, question has been called. Are there any objections to the call to question?
Consent.
Are there any objections to the consent? Hearing none, the motion passes. Senator Ganesh, Senator Iden,
Second.
do I recall the question, Senator Kidal?
Call to question.
Question has been called. Are there any objections? Are
Consent.
there any objections to the consent? Hearing none, motion passes. If I'm not mistaken, we are now in adjournment.
No.
Accepting motions.
Acceptance.
Oh, acceptance of the agenda. Thank you for reminding me. Senator Iden,
Motion to accept the agenda.
Senator Kidal,
Second.
Senator Ganesh. Are there any objections to the call to question? Are there any
Consent.
objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes. Senator Ganesh. Senator motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:34 PM by Senator Ganesh. Is there a second? Senator Martinez.
Second.
Senator Iden.
Call the question.
Are there any objections to call the question?
Consent.
Are there any objections to consent? Hearing none, motion passes.
Guys, it's the record.
We're never going to get to it.
Oh, it won't. It won't.
It won't.
Not say that, that's great.
Wow.